All right, welcome back to The Devil in Detail. I'm Eli Schwab.
And I'm Ben, and this is episode 21 of our Grendel reread podcast.
Hell yeah. We're getting back into the red, white, and black short stories. We're just coming off an amazing 2 weeks of interviews. Jim Mahfood, Matt Wagner, and Brendan Wagner 2 weeks ago. Last week we had Farel Dalrymple. This week it's just you and me, Ben, but oh boy. Those were amazing interviews, dude.
To quote the bard Eazy-E, it's back to the fucking basics. But those are some good interviews. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, so much fun. And just moving forward, I'm looking forward to some more interviews and stuff. I reached out to some more people. I reached out to Mike Huddleston, but he doesn't do any podcasts. He's one of those quiet geniuses, so we'll just have to talk about his story on his own. I'd love to get Stan Sakai on next week or in a few weeks. We'll be talking about his story. We solidified Matt and Diana for the Devil Child story when we get there. So I just got to reach out to Tim Sale. So that's a huge thing. Shout out to both of them. Diana got in touch with me to just say that she loved the Jim Mahfood, Matt Wagner interview. So that was really cool.
Thank you, Diana.
Praise. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I've giving you a hard time from time to time.
Well, you know, she, I just
one
think
of
she's
the greatest editors of all time. Obviously.
One of the greatest.
We love you, Diana. Yeah.
Characters in comics. One of the greatest. I mean, achieved so much. Worked with more people than almost anyone. So much love to Diana.
I was talking about. She came up in a discussion with my mother, and I said, "Well, she's worked with every cartoonist that you've ever heard of." Which was,
that's great. Yeah, much love to Diana. So this week, what do we get into? I'll start, if I may. October hath begun this week. Tanisha and I decorated our house like crazy. So we have, I set up a little graveyard, and we were setting up spiders after we get off this. We love Halloween. That's our big one. So it's been fun. Kayfabe-tober, I made a list for like an Inktober alternative, and so that's been fun. I did the first day was Alex Toth, and so I worked on this piece here, which is one of his, kind of like a riff on one of his character design sheets. I tried to incorporate a few different things from one of the character design sheets from
the way you compose those fingertips.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were too blocky.
That's perfect.
Thanks, dude.
The way it comes off the shoulder and in and out, I like that.
Thanks, dude. I feel like I got these hands off of like the Clerks cartoon, and I've loved them ever since. Yeah. So that's been good. I think that's basically what I've been working on. What you been up to, Ben?
It sounds good, dude. I've been reading Farel's book, The Wrenchies.
Nice. Yeah, I've been reading a bunch of Farel too.
It is a second YA book. Somehow, he must have known, someone there, and they said, "Oh, this guy's great." But it's seemingly no more YA than any of his other books, in that it includes hyper-violence, teenage murder gangs, pill and booze and drug taking, the F word. I mean, it's great. I just don't. He must have known someone at first second, because it is tonally identical to the other work I've read. It's great. It's 300 pages long. Nice. I've been thinking a lot about the things he said about David Lynch, and just kind of like going with it. It's good. It's exciting. It's funny. It's really well drawn. It's a little aesthetically depressing, and I like all those things. So nice. It's good. I've been moving, hence my empty shelves, and I've been laying out very slowly. I've been laying out the second issue of my new book, and I taught a new group of students storyboarding session 1, and they seem to get a kick out of it. A lot of Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh yeah,
it's
perfect to use as teaching. Calvin and Hobbes is like a master class.
Yeah, I focus on silent Sunday strips and on the idea that every frame advances the narrative by introducing a new motion, emotion, or narrative element. That's just like one of the little axioms that I try to break down visual storytelling with. But, you know, it's funny because like visual storytelling it's hard to use your words to say something that's so clear on the page. And that's sort of what we dedicate this podcast to doing. So,
right. Sometimes you don't need the word bubble. You don't need to Stan Lee the page, you know?
Yeah, you don't need to describe the image that you are looking at.
I'm so glad comics got over that hurdle. It's such a hard thing when you go back to read some of those old comics and you're like, we get it. You know, we see that Spider-Man is getting hit by a whatever, the rhino.
Well, I don't read anyway, so it's all
true,
pictures.
That's true.
It's all just pictures to me. Yeah, man. So we're nearing the end of the anthology series,
right?
And what I would propose is that next week we launch into the Kimiko Silverback series. I think it's 3 issues.
Cool, yeah.
It explores Argent's origins. Do a little bit more Red, White, and Black, then Grendel Shadow, and then wrap up the anthologies and dive into the main Hunter Rose event, Behold the Devil. My God, I can't wait.
Woo! I think that's a great idea, man. It's nice to kind of split it up, and it'll be nice to focus on Argent, who really doesn't get enough coverage, man. Such an interesting character.
It's funny. There's scant few of these anthology stories that deal with him. We sort of, with Jim, we discussed briefly the Kelly Jones one, but the most Argent content that the media stuff we're going to get this week, which is super cool, and also is sort of been kind of retroactively redacted in Kimiko Volume 1, only because only because it's not it's a rare, you know, proto story.
Right.
So
yeah, we're going to get the real story of Argent, which I'm psyched about. And this is kind of the first time that we're really going to like have like a single floppy that we're focusing on for the week, which I think will be great.
In a while. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. The first couple.
Yeah. In a very long time. Cool, man. And then it's going to be floppies all the way through the rest.
Exactly.
You know, for the most part, the most part, until past Prime, it would seem.
And this week we're kind of just going to do some cleanup of some of the stories that we kind of glossed over to get to the interviews, and pick up 3 stories, which basically are one story from Barry Pulumbo to the outdoor Argent fight to Chester the Molester. Yeah, Barry the Molester. Yeah,
Uncle Mo.
Yeah. All right, but first,
let's do the intro.
Wait. I do have to apologize because I fucked up. I fucked up the intro on the Jim Mahfood episode, which was like supposed to be the perfect episode, and I forgot the intro.
It's okay. Jim knows you like hip hop. It's all good.
All right. Let's try it again.
With the box, ready to go. Fast, maybe slow. Yeah. Vivat Grendel.
It's like the devil is my best friend. On the rose with the pen to the fork end, or till time end. Like Orion, Jupiter my kin, bloodline private. We control the whole shit. The wolf won't beef, then we feast off the rip. Behold the devil in detail. Behold the devil in detail.
All right, welcome back. Thanks again to Manus and Laserdisc for that intro. Shout out to those dudes. And we're back. I do want to say one thing that's very special about this episode. Something Ben has done. He's prepared 3 beverages for each story. Each beverage tells a little bit about the way he interprets the story through his tongue. And we'll find out each one with each story. Our first being Devil Crossed by Phil Hester.
Brought to you by Coca-Cola.
Ah, okay. And Phil Hester and Ande Parks.
Yeah,
we did talk about it a little bit with Jim Food, and but it's just such a big story. All 3 of these are very pivotal stories that do what we always say: develop a frame or two from Devil by the Deed and from issue 3 of Kimiko, or issue issue 3.
Thereabouts. It's like a retread of that Kimiko Volume 1 material, and these 3 are really special. It's cool that we get to do them in one episode, because they take place basically consecutively within Devil by the Deed.
Right. And
this
we
is kind
get
of the first time in these anthologies where that sequencing streamlines for the first time. And it's sort of funny that it's happening so late in the game. You know, we're 65, 70% of the way through. I don't know. Yeah, 65% of the way through these anthology stories, and here we are.
Yeah.
The very beginning, the night where Argent and Grendel meet for the first time.
Exactly. And when we start the story with Barry Pulumbo, another character who...
You're frozen for me.
Oh, you were frozen for me. So...
Oh, okay. Great. Super.
We start with Barry Pulumbo, who is really a catalyst for this whole thing. Barry Pulumbo is like a huge catalyst for the whole story. Like, if, you know, how things would have been different if, say, Pulumbo wasn't killed, or if the parents weren't killed and Stacy never became the ward of Grendel and never found out who Grendel was. Like, this story is such a turning point in the lives of 4 people.
Yeah, it's really funny because if Pulumbo's plan that we will see had gone through, he would have been the king of New York. He would have been the uber creature, as Grendel puts it later on,
right?
Who would have ruled the schemy seediness of New York. It would seem,
right?
The one
so
who
let's
undid the wolf and the devil.
Let's ponder a little bit, as I was doing while reading this. Like, who is Barry Pulumbo? What is his above the board job? What does he do? Like, because it kind of talks about his it's a real estate scam that he's working on. So do you think he's like he owns a real estate firm in New York? He's a
yeah, I think of him as a billionaire New York City real estate developer. Robert Durst or Fred Trump come to mind, you know. It's really funny. I had a friend yesterday who was telling me about someone that he knew who was involved with someone else that was involved with billionaire New York City real estate stuff, and her job was just to procure women and drugs to close deals at real estate parties.
Wow.
And it was just like, well, that's, you know, like if you live a high profile life and like there's vice, like that's just what it is. Like,
yeah, that's
can't
very
always
Grendel.
be in control. It was a very Grendel kind of.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like probing him on this, and I at a certain point I felt like he might have thought I was being like judgmental, but I was really just like fascinated by it.
Yeah, this is great.
It's like couldn't get enough.
Yeah, this is great storytelling like material to just learn.
Well,
about.
there's a podcast coming soon, voiced by Billy Crudup of all people.
Oh my God, about this person?
So, what's that?
About this character?
About Reed's friends.
Oh, that's cool.
I can't.
Crudup.
I can say no more. Yeah, it was. They're like, so Ben, whose voice do you think that is? And Dove's like, I'll give you a hint. He's in a superhero movie. And I was like, I don't know.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. He's Dr. Manhattan. I forgot that.
He's Captain Manhattan.
I still think of him as the lead singer for Stillwater.
Right. That's what they said. That when they gave me the Stillwater clue. That's how I got it. Anyway, there's a little bit of text that sort of helps describe Barry. That just like how crafty and smooth he is. That he's woven a web of deception amidst luxuries that have made him lust for more, much more.
And did you notice the wine bottle? You're about to say it.
I sure did, but only in my 3rd reading over several years. I was so excited for that to come up. Frere Shrek.
Yeah, it's
very
great. Fun. So then I really love the art style in this. Very stark and very like cool shaped, almost in like a Batman animated series type of style.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been really cool to see what's his name do a Grendel story.
Bruce Timm.
Bruce Timm, yeah.
Are you a Phil Hester fan? Can you tell me anything about him?
No, I don't know too much about him. I think I had notes on a previous page.
Yeah,
what about you?
He's like a DC career dude, I think. I kind of know him more from Twitter than I do from his comics, but that's just probably because I've never been a DC monthly reader.
Right, yeah.
But my guess is that he's been there for 25 years or so.
So he's done a lot of work, I'm sure.
I think so. Like Green Arrow stuff or
yeah, that's right. No, he did the Green Arrow book that Matt did the covers for that Kevin Smith wrote. The Quiver story. Right. That's where I knew him. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
His sense of Phil Hester's sense of design throughout this entire story. And we got to give credit to Andy Park, who I admittedly never heard of.
Right.
Let's call him,
he must work.
Phil's great inker,
Right. Yeah. Must be. Yeah.
The sense of design and storytelling that they put into this is so different from what Matt does, but fits in so well into the aesthetic of using design to tell the story, and black and white and screen tone, and the use of red is so unbelievably masterful. It's probably the best use of red in the entire anthology when we get there.
Yeah, I kind of don't remember.
This is
only one time.
Yeah, it's only one time. This story probably has the best reread value of any of them, because I've read it now twice in the last few weeks.
Yeah, me too.
And each time I've picked up at least one or two things that I never saw before.
Right.
Whether
it's such a juicy moment. It's such a juicy moment.
And we've seen it before. Like, we've seen this conversation play out, and we've asked questions. Who is Barry? How did Stacy's parents die? How long has he been?
Yeah. What is this grift he's trying to do?
Yeah. Like what's his end game? And this story lays out a lot of the answers, or points us in the direction that sort of sheds light on those things. Another thing that this one does structurally is that there's dialogue and there's narration. Right. And the two work together really, really nicely to kind of weave and tell the story.
Right.
It's a very rare approach for Matt, but it works really well.
Works really well.
It's rare, at least in here.
All right, so we're on to the next spread here, where we have Argent enter.
Well, you didn't even compliment the screen tone on page 1, damn it.
Oh, the screen tone is another well done thing.
It's like a shadow checkerboard.
Well, it's like shadow, but then it's just kind of like aesthetics to break up panels or something.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, the arrangement is great. So Argent's here. He wants Grendel so bad. He's this new unattainable crime element in the city that, like, he's been, as he says, a bane to the criminal for centuries. But this is one criminal that he just can't get his spiny little talons around, his jagged fangs near.
And of course, like with every single Argent story, his sense of smell is mentioned from page 1.
Right, and yet unable to detect the one thing it wants to detect.
Unbelievable, yeah.
So Grendel must have, he's got all these unknown technologies. He must have like a musk dampener type of thing. Yeah. He's got to have something.
That he is, like I said, Grendel describes himself later on in this episode as he and Argent as uber creatures, and which is a very Matt Wagner pulp literary spin on comic book tropes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in Grendel, where it is a comic book, but it's kind of elevated and it's too smart to be schlocky. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all orchestrated, because Grendel comes out of the shadows a little bit later, but I don't believe him to have been there the whole time. He's at the party. He knows Argent came in. He's with Stacy. Then he sends Stacy in so that he can escape, change, and then come in right as he sees Argent.
Well, that depends on if you are taking the events of Kaneko 2 as canon in relation to this story.
Because
they're slightly different, but it's the only indication that we have. So there is a lot of costume changing between tuxedo and Grendel outfit and tuxedo again.
Right, and this isn't Grendel tuxedo, but it really should be.
Right.
The next story is
a few times.
The next story is tuxedo. Okay, so that's just
and that's okay. That's fine with me that there are slight differences, because it's this legend reinterpreted through all these different people's eyes.
Right.
And Matt's very easy with that. Whether you want to do devil's eyes or ninja eyes or Spider-Man eyes or
right. And if we imagine Red, White, and Black as in universe, it would be, Christine Spar organized all these people, and she's retelling these tales, and then these people are interpreting them.
Right.
as they see
This is all in Christine's imagination as she's prepping the book.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could redux this entire thing with captions from Christine, as several stories
Right.
have. And in fact, the Farel story is the only one that has a direct quotation from Devil by the Deed in it.
Right.
I
really wonder who was like, because remember Farel told us that he wasn't the original artist choice. So I wonder who was. I wonder who was.
Well,
could ask Diana.
I'm sure we could find that out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really enjoy here on page 2 is how absolutely enormous Argent is.
I love
Barry.
This is almost my favorite. I think this is my favorite Argent. Like, I love this characterization, blocky and bold and and gross. See, I don't even see him as gross. I think.
Oh yeah. Well, they say they talk about how bad he smells.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely smells. He definitely smells.
He's like salivating.
Yeah,
like drooling on Barry's shoulder for. I want.
Yeah, that is gross. Yeah, I can taste it. Oh man.
Yeah. So anyway, in case you haven't been able to tell from all of our gushing, Barry is doing a double cross, where Barry thinks he's going to get them both killed, and then neither will.
And I think
be his bane. And
I think the thing for Grendel is like it's a real estate deal that I think Grendel thinks he's going to, Barry thinks Grendel thinks he's going to use it to like take that next step up towards like controlling the city, but Barry is using it because he wants to control the city.
Right.
Right. And so
I have a complaint here on at the end of page 2.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like such a heel saying this. At the end of page 2, what happens is this really creepy moment where Argent is drooling on Barry's shoulder, talking about how bad he wants Grendel, that he can taste it. It's interrupted by Stacy opening the door, and you can see that the light kind of comes in and Barry's shadow kind of stretches across. So I really wish that could be done in 2 panels so we can see the contrast in lighting and shadow.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of, why do I want that? Because the dialogue reflects that interruption. And so I need that other moment to say, oh, there's been this change in lighting.
And also to say that Argent like leaps into the shadows so as not to be seen at first.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, maybe something like that. I just want to see that like it's dark and then some light is let in the room, because a lot of the shadows here and the layouts are kind of abstracted by shape and screen tone and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and really high contrast as well.
Yeah, each layout is done really well too. It's not
amazing.
It's almost never like a 6-panel grid. It's almost never
like this is a complaint that I'm making because everything is so brilliant in the story. It's like it could be that much better.
And you teach storytelling. You're a teacher, so these things pop out to you because a lot, Ben.
Anyway, so Stacy comes in.
Yes, sent by Uncle Hunter most likely so that he can escape.
In Primer 2, Stacy's in the party. They talk about Peter Pan.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. And then she does. I don't think this scene is shown. I think that is it. She shows up once and finds him dead. That's the only time she's in the office, I believe.
I can't remember. I thought she came in and we see her with Argent. Should I grab the archives?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now I got the archives. I did a quick little edit. So issue 3 of the Kamiko Primer starts with Party to a Murder. And so that's what we're working on right now. And we do get a little Stacy coming in. And this scene kind of plays out a little bit.
Yeah, sort of a redux with a little bit more narrative heft.
Exactly.
Being able to rebake it, knowing what is in Devil by the Deed.
Yep. Which
Matt didn't at the time, going by the seat of his pants.
And they don't like completely redo it, like, because the first thing Grendel says is like, well, did he buy it? But like that's not the first thing we get here. So
Yeah,
it's like you said, a redux.
a redux. I think that's a fine way of putting it. Anyway, Stacy has been playing host, or at least that's what Barry told her, that she's the lady of the house, and she said Hunter. She doesn't call him. He's not Uncle Hunter. Hunter says you're being a incorrigible host, inscribable host.
Yeah.
Stacy notes that she realizes, oh, Mr. Argent is here. And Argent is kind of like embarrassed to be seen. It seems like Argent really, it's like, remember when like in Beauty and the Beast, when he like gets in the tub, he's like nice and clean. Like he really has to like prep to be seen with Stacy.
Right. He was just slobbering over a kill.
Yeah. You know? Threatening and talking about death and killing. And then he's the big cuddly buddy. And she says, I haven't seen you in weeks. And it sort of indicates a little bit of a timeline. And when Argent leaves, he says to Pulumbo, when we started this double cross, I didn't know about Stacy. Right. So it's been in the time that Barry and Argent have been scheming together, that weird relationship. Oh, okay. She probably poked her head in again and thought that he was saw the goodness in him or
yeah, whatever. I'd love to see that first meeting, because I was thinking about like upon first meeting, because like Stacy's such a fan of animals, she loves these animals, so like upon first seeing this possibly grotesque beast in her uncle's office, was she like, what the fuck, or was she like, immediately embraced him as this beautiful creature? I wonder. Stacy's such a complex and interesting character that I feel like she didn't immediately go as fear, that she saw this creature and was like, look at this.
Well, I think that, to problem solve this, why don't we headcanonize a story where Stacy's parents die and Argent is involved in the case somehow?
Yeah, what if,
I don't know.
I was thinking
that she knows of him.
And what if one of Grendel's first accidental kills was these parents, and he felt guilty the whole time, but ever since that first kill that he accidentally made, or maybe he did something fell and killed like innocent bystanders or something, and so there was a guilt behind the killing. Hunter did kill her parents. She went to Barry, and then he was like, I need to, after meeting this beautiful little chickadee, I must. Maybe.
Yeah, I think for me it's more that I think that she's really young, but I think that Argent is halfway between Batman and Boogeyman to children in the city.
Yeah.
That like they do, there's some sense of awareness about.
She had heard the tales of Argent. Yeah.
Something like that.
He looks to me too a little bit like the Man-Bat character from Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, or like Clayface in the one where he's over his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with that huge upper torso,
the big shoulder. Yeah,
really cool
super
stuff.
Cool. Anyway, so Argent deuces out, and he clearly doesn't trust Pulumbo.
No, he doesn't.
Screen tone is amazing. Look at the screen tone in panel 4 on his hand. Super cool.
Yeah, and that panel 5 there, I love the eyes and the. He's very like Chupacabra. He's very like Beast of the Night in that one. And he could have just waited one more second and said this last piece before he dove out the window. So he's just like, he's got like 3 sentences. He's got 2 sentences to finish. And Pulumbo's like, what did you say? You're falling stories out a window. I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's a New York City mansion.
Absolutely.
And those are pretty big, and it's kind of interesting to see like a little bit of the skyline behind it, because in a lot of other depictions of this setting, it almost doesn't always feel like it's in the city.
Oh, it doesn't always feel like it's like what it seems like is a rooftop.
Yeah, or like like the garden with the gate, and then it feels like the city once you get out of the gate, where there's like taxi cabs and stuff, but it's like a big yard with trees and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of space. It's like as big. It seems in story that it's actually bigger than a mansion in New York City would be.
Right.
Like the biggest mansion you could imagine.
Right. But then where's that park come into play? I mean, there's tons of little city parks, so it must just be something like that.
I think it's his yard. I think it's the grounds of his. I think it's like supposed to be a compound that's like a square block.
Oh, word.
Like, because there's like a ballroom in it, and it's like enormous. It's not like it's, you know, he's a real estate mogul. It could be more than a mansion. It could be like a building. You know?
And I would suggest at first that it's one of those like middle roof, like Rockefeller Center type of roof garden things. But then Bernie wouldn't have been able to swipe her up if it was like a rooftop.
Yeah, well,
it's got to be ground floor.
You don't want to overthink the like. How did
that's
Bernie,
the whole cast.
Like, where did he leave him? You know, that's the whole podcast. Anyway, speaking from when I was complaining about the 2-panel sequence, I wish I had. This is a wonderful 2-panel sequence of Grendel appearing, where the contrast just kind of makes it pop.
And the shadow too, you can see just like a brief little line of like a little rough brush, or like a like the end of a brush, which is just such a great little detail.
Yeah, that must be Ande Park. Yeah, it's sort of like the only time where that texture is used. This is really such a clean style.
Exactly.
That it's a really interesting like little touch.
Oh shit, man! I didn't even notice this. Panel 3, Pulumbo's drinking. Right above the lamp, you get a little teeny Grendel up there.
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That's what you were talking about? Oh, that was your sequence. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, the contrast could have just been him having the drink.
Well, yeah, I didn't even notice it, man. Just because it's like taking a beat. You know, it's like that beat that you needed. Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Yeah. There you go.
And this is where Grendel calls him a wild beast. Never forget that. Like, I think maybe Argent is almost his choice, his decision making is impaired by his lust for Grendel, and so he's a little bit falling for Barry's grift, a little too easy, because he just needs that
I think
info.
Argent's a dumbass.
Yeah, well,
he's
a brute.
It's the curse is sort of blinding his judgment.
Because there is a bloodlust or something. We'll get into that next week, but there is like a bloodlust curse kind of thing.
Well, it's like he is amped up by the levels of violence that Grendel represents, because ordinarily he'll like go after like, killer, common bad guys.
Yeah.
And this is not, and he's anything but common.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy the final tier where Grendel uses the fork to take off his glasses.
Yeah.
It's almost compared to the way that we've seen this scene play out, like throwing the fork through his blunt in the past. It's like, this is almost like erotic. It's like very gentle. Yeah.
Right. And then I love how it's like the last panel of the story is like through the reflection in his glasses. Last panel.
Yeah, and you can see Barry kind of squinting and struggling for it.
Really cool. So,
and
they're just talking
Grendel's
about
line, you're far too cavalier. Even I, who am fearless, tread carefully here.
Right. Proving to us that always Grendel saw like almost an equal and a threat in Argent. And no other equal or threat that he ever felt until he met Batman, I guess. Probably, and that's the only two, and maybe the Shadow. I've only read that once, so it'll be good to get back into that.
The Batman stuff, I really love the panel where he pulls off the mask and you can see the challenge has driven him mad a little bit because he's put on his war paint.
Yeah.
That Batman was actually a little too challenging.
Yeah. So good.
So I like the captions here. Now Barry allows himself to retract, whereas the other creature, Argent, is repulsed by fear. This one thrives upon it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's I'm not sure. Anyway, so this is where Barry lays out the plan that we've been wondering about.
Exactly.
Or at least the plan that he tells Grendel about,
Right.
That Grendel will show up with stolen deeds for this real estate deal. He told Argent that that the real estate scam is primed for Grendel because he's excited to screw over the source or the mark.
Mm-hmm.
He's excited for the money that he's going to make. And he's excited, I guess, for the the New York City power that the deal would consolidate.
Right.
For
the
him.
ownership of these giant buildings to use as he pleases, perhaps.
Yeah. And basically the entire thing is arranged just for Grendel's pleasure of being able to control an encounter with Argent. The first of many, you know, like
Right.
that's all it is that it's like, I just want to make, you know, conditions need to be perfect. I want to
And how ballsy of Barry to try to do this, like, because I guess it's implied that there's previous relationships with each of them. And he finds himself in this precarious position where he could, as he says, get rid of two of his biggest foes in becoming, you know, the crime boss that he so wants to be.
Well, it seems like Argent sees Barry as like a useful idiot. You know, yes, you're a criminal, but if I can use you as a tool to get to this guy, then I will allow you, you know, he's always on thin ice with Argent or whatever.
Yeah.
At the bottom here, it's really interesting do you hate the wolf creature then? Goddamn straight I do. That fucking thing has been a menace to our kind for centuries.
Right.
It's like, oh, our kind. So there is this kind of like evilness kinship between them, which is crazy.
Yeah, but it's even like Grendel's like, I'm not of your ilk. Don't lump me into this.
Yeah, well, I'm not inept. We both might be evil, but you're a putz.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And I get things done. Note the height difference between Grendel and Barry.
Oh, interesting.
Here, and if you sort of look at, like, Argent is like 5 heads taller than Grendel in this style.
Yeah, that's well done.
Yeah.
Cool. So it might be enough to kill a devil and a monster both. Barry breathes a sigh of relief, and it's almost over. And here's your one stroke of red.
Yeah.
Which kind of just goes down.
Sleight of hand as Grendel poisons his drink. Yeah. And it really cleverly guides you right down to him. He tells him to have the drink. Have your drink, go back to your party. And then he reaches for the drink at the end. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's so well done. And honestly, I didn't pick it up. Till now.
I didn't see it until the third time.
It's so genius.
Yeah.
Wow. Good job.
Really, really, really subtle.
I wonder if that was from Matt or if it was like...
Yeah, we'll have to ask Matt about that because, like, it's a very pointed use storytelling-wise. It's one of those things where, like, we could spend a long time analyzing how the composition works and the duality between the black and white and the red strip. But, like, you look at it and it says 1,000 words. You don't need to get into it. Somewhere in here, at the very bottom, as Barry sweats it out, his ultimate double cross is revealed, and it's that the warehouse is rigged to explode, and he'll be rid of both of them.
Yes.
So what if it had worked? Like, I mean, maybe Grendel already knew that. It doesn't seem like he did, but like
that it was rigged to blow. Yeah.
All that had to happen was Stacy doesn't find. If Stacy hadn't found Barry, then presumably they would have met up that night in the warehouse and died in an explosion, and then they all would have died.
Dang, again.
And then Stacy would have just been a ward, and she'd get state therapy, and she'd be fine by the time she was 25.
She would have been way
or not,
off.
You know.
Yeah. Oh man, so many things have to fall into place, and Stacy is almost always the crux. Yeah,
I love the final caption right over the red drink. It is nearly over.
Yes.
And it's like, nah, dude, like chronologically, like it's just getting started. Like this is the end of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning.
But then on the final page too, we get shown the party again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's those 4 people that are shown in that thing where it's like Larry and it's like the lady and stuff. And they're all there.
Oh yeah, you think it's those people? Oh yeah,
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Rachel Coleman,
nice pull.
You think that's Rachel Coleman right over Larry's shoulder in the first panel? Yeah.
Or yeah. Yep.
Yeah, why?
facing
I mean,
us.
why?
Our back is
Why
facing
not?
us.
It's
Yeah.
it's Larry doing his Larry thing,
Mhm.
telling a story about what the mayor's wife, giving roadhead to the limo driver or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We don't see Larry smoking. I guess people.
Oh yeah,
don't
this is the
smoke.
one time Larry doesn't
Yeah.
smoke. Good call. Very, very interesting. The hunter is he's pretty grizzled. Like
Pretty grizzled. He doesn't look like a teen at all.
Yeah, he also looks a lot like broader, like maybe the tuxedo is quite boxy. There's a panel somewhere in one of these stories. It might be I don't think it's in this one, where Grendel's figure, he almost looks like Christine. It might be in Owen.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that one.
Where
Yeah.
it's like such a feminine.
I think that's actually the next
lightness.
story.
Yeah. Anyway, they have a little banter back and forth. He insults his writing.
And then
Stacy's scream goes off. Yeah.
Hear the scream. Hear the scream and
This is
scream.
interesting.
And
Look at the
baby.
design of his cane. Looks like a putter or something like that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Looks very weird.
And then that's it. Despite all his many machinations, the Tuxedo Man lies dead.
That is a dense and rich story, and it took us about 40 minutes to get through it.
Right.
The others, I don't think are going to take that long, but this one, there's a lot to dig into this one.
But yeah, there really is.
Cool. Woo.
Wow. Yeah. And so the next story we move into is Devil Clash, drawn by Michael Avon Oeming.
But I have to get my second beverage.
All right, let's do that.
So Eli.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm really back yet.
All right.
All right. This is Devil's Clash by Mike Oeming. It's brought to you by Kombucha.
Ooh, the Brew Doctor.
The Brew Doctor. It's,
Very nice.
It's kind of gross. Supposedly it's good for you.
Yeah,
I find
it's
it
the
refreshing.
booch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's definitely got a weird, sharp,
It's got a tang.
the tang of the living creature you're drinking.
Well, I eat yogurt now, so it's
Very nice.
Never did that before.
A little Scooby in there.
Yeah.
That's what a kombucha Scooby is.
Oh,
This shit's weird. That's what the living creature that puts.
oh god.
off
The more we talk about it, the less I want to have either. So let's not. Tell me, are you a Michael Avon Oeming fan?
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I first got up with his work from the Blunt Man and Chronic comic book. That's where I really kind of first got up with his work. And he did Powers too, right?
That's the big one.
The big one. And there was even some sort of Dark Horse book where he drew Mage interacting with the Powers people.
Huh.
Have you seen that?
No, the thing about Oeming is that every time I look at his stuff, I'm sort of like, wow, I'm sort of surprised that he's not one of my favorite cartoonists.
Right.
Or that I would think I would like him more than I do. I think it's great work, and this story is wonderful. It strikes me, I wonder how much his style has evolved over 30 years.
Yeah.
It seems like it might be just very slight tweaks.
Because he had such a distinct style to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happens right in between these stories to get okay? So
what happens is Hunter goes into the bedroom, and he basically finds Stacy.
For Joe Matt, here's Raja.
Here we go.
Say hi to Joe. Hi Joe. It's
Hi Joe.
Alrighty, sorry. So Hunter
that's right.
goes in to see Stacy screaming over the body.
He runs he makes sure he's the first one in that bedroom.
Right. Because
Stacy is catatonic. I think that he drugs Stacy.
Catatonic?
Yeah, catatonic.
Right. Yeah.
I think that he drugs Stacy.
For sure. Yeah.
He carries her out of
the first of 2 times he'll drug her within this couple hour time span.
In Devil by the Deed, it says he finds her catatonic. He might find her catatonic, and then he gives her a little something just to keep her
Right.
quiet.
Put her out. Yeah.
And then I think that he tells Larry, he's like, Larry, I'm going to put Stacy to bed. Just tell the police that she wasn't here. And then, and also there's subtext where Larry already knows that Hunter is Grendel. And he's angling to get in with him.
Right.
For the thrill of it all. Mm-hmm. And so whatever Hunter tells him to do, he's going to do.
I think so. Yeah. He's really trying to get in.
So basically he steals her out of the scene and
goes down into this maybe Central Park type of deal, or like
I think it's the grounds.
Yeah. The grounds of this estate kind of thing.
Yeah. Or I don't think there is property on Central Park. No, I don't think. No,
just across the street.
Yeah, it's across the way.
Inside, yeah.
I think, like I said, that Barry has like a square block.
Because he's a real estate mogul.
Place. So he's got like the biggest New York City place you imagine. And the grounds are so big that it's like a big backyard in like I don't want to say a suburban neighborhood, but it's big enough that the people in the mansion can't see the electric fork fighting going on in the trees, in the fountains and grounds and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so Hunter, Grendel escapes. He's got Stacy. He kind of puts her down for a second. You'll be fine soon. And then that's when he calls to Larry on his fork or whoever.
He's calling to Radcliffe.
Radcliffe. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Good fucking memory, dude. So he calls Radcliffe looking for the pickup. And he's got an extra passenger, and then that's when he kind of realizes it. Hadn't thought she'd be the one to find her uncle's body. He's like,
I don't really know why he has to take her out. I'm not sure why he needed to remove her from the scene.
Probably so as not to get her caught up in the police.
For sympathy for her. Crime, so that she doesn't have to deal with. It was to be a nice guy.
Yeah. To be the Uncle Hunter, he loves her, So he's like, I got to get her away from all this.
Yeah, and she really looks like a baby, like swaddled in this.
Really does
in this blanket. And, that's a nice new touch. But the way that these garden walls are kind of arranged are very similar to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah. And that shows that it's like the grounds. However, on the next frame, it kind of seems like it's a rooftop thing because of the way Argent.
Yeah, they look a little bit more like suburban almost with the peaked roofs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little strange. Yeah.
Well, so here he's kind of remembering her laughter. So this is back in a time. Like, what is he looking back on here? Because they haven't really had this
I think it's the last 3 months. I don't think it's that much time.
In between. So like at this time, this is Barry's alive and they're having their own times hanging out?
I think that either Stacy's parents were in the society scene already, or Hunter and Barry were connected through society and Grendeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like Hunter would trot Stacy out into society arena, the Pulumbos would also present Stacy in that way. And then Hunter was like, in the innocent Michael Jackson way, like, and purely innocent. I mean that.
Right.
Just like, here's this kid who is an orphan. I'm kind of like an orphan.
And still a kid.
And I'm still a kid. And I can, he's basically a babysitter.
Yeah.
Like
he relates to her in a way, like a youth that he lost or missed in a way that he can. Yeah,
this like he's reading to her while they kind of cuddle on a swing. It's a little strange.
It's uncly, it's uncly.
It is, yeah. Well, I don't think he calls her. She doesn't call him Uncle Hunter until after the trial.
Yeah, he adopts her. Yeah.
I think he tells her, isn't he like, please, Uncle Hunter? She's like,
so,
okay.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
All right.
So
but
then
she adores him.
I think so too. I think they find a kinship for sure over many things. Perhaps her parents didn't give her the attention, didn't read to her, didn't take her out kite flying and bird feeding, and so she found this babysitter that
Yeah,
did it.
I think a very interesting and legitimate question to ask Matt and Diana is, what did her life look like with her parents
Absolutely.
in terms of class and care and
Meet the Pulumbos.
Yeah, I that would be interesting.
Yeah. And so he's kind of taking a moment to reflect.
Yeah, just like waiting for the car to get them in the corner. It's not anyone looking out the window would see them. So
right. And I think he would jump over the wall to get the car. I think.
Yeah, or whatever. I mean, it's not that important. This last panel is the one we're talking about where he looks like Christine.
It does, yeah.
He's so the arch of his back is so lithe.
Yeah, it's cool though how you see like the tails of his suit kind of there at the legs and.
I didn't even see the legs popping out. Yeah. Oh, right, because his lapel looks like a breast.
It does, yeah. I think
Yeah, but this is probably the most androgynous panel of him.
Yeah, I agree.
That we've seen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, and that's right when he says, time to die, Blackheart. We get Argent coming in, and the fearsome wolf shows his face, and this is where kind of the tete-a-tete.
Right. Grendel was not expecting this.
Right.
But he's still like theatric and kind of bardic in his delivery. The fearsome wolf. And he reveals that Barry's dead. Again, the Argent talks about his sense of smell. The scent of murder is on you.
Yes.
Oh,
but
God,
he only smells the murder. He doesn't smell
the stench of your deeds inflames me. And then Argent sees Stacy.
Right. And we get a little flash of their own play, some swimming and some.
So she's climbing on him. They go swimming together.
Mm-hmm. He's probably really fun. Like he would be a fun playmate. Like a giant teddy bear. I think that's what we saw now.
So, this is 20 years old. It was conceived 30 years ago, and it's just like it takes on such a different cast. In we live in a world where like single childless adults are not allowed in playgrounds.
Right.
Like that's our current reality.
You're right,
for to stop all the Barry genes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But like here they're like at the old swimming hole.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, what does he have, like an old truck that he drives her upstate with or something?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
I'd love to see Argent's old truck that he drives.
Anyway, the fight, the classic fight that we've seen goes down. Oeming's dynamics and shapes and compositions are so great, powerful and cool. I love it.
And this like the chase. Well, he hits him in the head, square in the forehead, and then that's kind of like the red that we follow through the movements here.
Is the fork not out? What I'm a little.
The fork's out. Oh well, yeah. You see it right after he cracks him in the head. And
it is out.
Yeah.
It's so is he stabbing him or is it the blunt?
I think he just blunt ended him. Yeah, he blunt ended him. Cool. Man, and then they're chasing through the trees. It's kind of like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon situation where they're like.
This is where he an uber creature like himself. How delicious their conflict would rage.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that he describes him that way
as the uber creature. Mm-hmm. And they really are a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in here, running from like the tips of the trees throughout. And then he's like, join me on firmer footing. And that's, Argent coming at him and they're like, touche, do again, with his fencing shit. It's really cool. Grendel's kind of on top of this. This is again a scene that we've seen a few times. Some super dynamic panels from Matt on this, and some super dynamics and this is where the fire starts in the tree.
The last two panels where he turns on the electricity, the horizontals are really powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and,
the
fire starts. They're raging. Another super dynamic panel where he picks up the fork, and still there's no time for raucous exchange. More's the pity. It must end now, before it's even hardly begun. Dun, dun, dun. And he lays one last slice across the bow of Argent.
Yeah, I really love the shapes of that stroke and the explosion of blood. It's Oeming's flatness is kind of the thing that I think about, but it's not just flatness, it's how he's so explicit about the angles of the planes.
Yeah.
And so that red piece really, like, you can really understand exactly how it's cutting through space.
Exactly.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. Grendel jumps into the tree, jumps over to the corner where he left Stacy, only to find she's gone.
Yeah. And I guess Argent is so incapacitated. He's down for the count.
For very much.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So
he's wrecked there.
yeah, she's gone.
Dang, what is that?
That's the sound of the police.
That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Whoop, whoop. KRS-One, the teacher.
I don't want to change beverages for this last story. I'm still working on my
All right, well, what was gonna be? What was the big reveal for
I
the
have
third
either
Betty?
a large Heineken or a Gatorade that I bought for my wife that she didn't take. Could have been either.
Yeah. All right, so end of a great story there. This final panel too, with like his shadow and the red eyes. Well done, super well done. All right, great. Another great story. Fast paced, just like the battle that we've seen a few times, fleshed out a little bit more, kind of with the updated Redux story. And here's the last story for the day. This is Farel's story, Farel Dalrymple. We talked with him a little bit about it last ep. So if you want to hear more about its creation and you didn't hear the last episode, go check that out. But this is Barry's story. Barry Jean.
Barry Jean, the other Barry.
Yeah, exactly. He's a
low-level pornographer and pedophile.
Exactly.
Who Grendel knows, because Grendel knows everyone.
He's got his pulse on the pedo scene.
He's like Krampus. If you're a New York City criminal, he knows. He not only knows who you are by description, he knows where you live.
Oh yeah.
And so
Grendel does everything he can to.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does. Like, he just wants his finger on the pulse of everything, and it doesn't. It makes sense that he would have files, that he would get to know these dastardly folks, and I think this pedophilia shit is his like most hated thing.
That's Matt called it his one rule, although he has 5 rules. This is the one rule that he followed through on.
Rules.
No PCP.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It was evangelical hucksters, PCP, real estate, con men, and pedophiles.
Dang, man.
And the 4th one is really the one that he followed through on.
Yeah, a lot. So far.
Well, in vagary, they're like, and what about the PCP? And they're like, nah.
Oh, yeah, in that one story,
right?
That was like the found objects. Yeah.
What I like about this Farel story is that it really feels like 1980s New York City tenement.
Right. It's dirty. It's textured.
Yeah.
He almost
it's
always
not a science
seems
fiction
to.
Story.
No.
Sorry.
He always seems to kind of have this jitter to him, like a shake, like of excitement and disgustingness, and the sweat. And I love Farel's work. We're obviously both deep in a Farel hole right now.
Yeah, right.
But so we come in and Barry's got, Hunter had her in that sheet, and now Barry's got her kind of like slung over her shoulder, like in a sack almost. He comes in.
I think she's in his trench coat.
Oh, that's right. We do see that he.
And I thought about that a lot.
Yeah.
And because also in Devil by the Deed, I think that in Kamiko Volume 1, he's carrying her like under the crook of his arm.
Yeah.
In Devil by the Deed, he's got her like this. And in this, he's just like got her.
Just like,
he's got her in a sack.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
But then when he puts her on the couch, okay, so he comes in, throws her on the couch, goes back, turns the lights on, locks all his locks, and then he's like looking at his prize, kind of.
He could hardly believe his luck.
Yes.
I think Matt describes it earlier.
Yeah, he goes over and he uncovers her, and you just see this, disgusting pedo face with the red in the shades, almost like he sees red. That saying, like he's like got this, innocent little child that he begins to like pose in this really disgusting way until you see this nervous sweat drip off his nose onto her face that shows her thumb he just put in her mouth. Really kind of startling stuff.
Earlier in Devil, it's gross. Earlier in Devil by the Deed, we talked about like the ethnicity of Hunter and Stacy, that they almost look Indian or like Southeast Asian. And Farel really captures a little bit of that in here. The cartooning is so strong. Like Barry Jean is definitely a type. He is a creepy, gross, like white dude, and she's also like this waif girl who doesn't seem to be white, and his cartooning is really good at capturing all that.
So good. And so then we see on the next page here, he's kind of setting up a scene. He's got his JVC camcorder on a tripod. He's got some VHS around, seemingly like that. This is not the first time he's done this. This is not his first PDO.
This is straight out of Devil by the Deed.
Yeah.
I think in that one, she's sitting catatonic upright.
Right.
I think it's funny that like it's like a specific 1980s JVC camcorder.
Yeah.
Because like in everything else, it would just be like a floating sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like in Christine Spar, it would just be like a floating sci-fi camera.
Yeah.
It was funny that in Devil by the Deed, they show Anson Reynolds being photographed by like old timey flash bulbs that had right. Batman animated series kind of thing to it. But this is like a
straight up
very
80s.
Specific like time and place piece of hardware. Yeah. This is
and,
disgusting.
Where he rubs his sweat off her face and sucks it off his finger, and then moves to the camera. And our next frame, we see a hand in the window, and then we're outside and we see the hand grasping onto the fire escape.
And this is like straight out of Devil by the Deed. I think that the images of him pulling himself up over the fire escape.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, they'll be on the screen. I'm gonna be peppering in some of these old.
Farel's hand acting, and his hands are so good.
I love this hand coming up over the fire escape.
Yeah,
it's so
just
great.
Like the way he, they communicate, even though there's like cartoonisms in them.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do some hand studies from this guy.
I love it, man. It reminds me, and this is because I used to do a lot of these hand studies because I love these like rectangular fingers. It reminds me of Joe Madureira. He kind of has these squared fingers with the seams that he did a lot in some of his X-Men work and stuff.
Oh, on the glove. Yeah, okay. I can see that. I'll allow it.
Thanks, dude.
I just looked at my Joe Mad X-Men's last weekend. That was when I stopped buying the book.
You didn't like Joe Mad?
I was excited at like 317, and then it's like 355, and I'm like, am I still buying this fucking book?
I love Joe Mad's run. That was like my favorite shit. I have the trade like X-Men Visionaries that he did that collected his work, and goddamn man, that was my favorite. That was like my prime like collecting days. When he did Battle Chasers too, like that was the peak of me like buying Wizards, and I sent in for the Battle Chasers 1/2 thing from them, and oh man,
yeah, I think I have the first two Battle Chasers I brought home last week.
Yeah. All right, well let's get back. Next page, we see him inserting the VHS cassette as Grendel lifts up the shades and goes in fork first. Barry's Bernie doesn't even notice until
Bernie, not Barry.
Yeah,
We've been calling him Barry this whole time.
A lot of them bees until we see a shadow of the fork on Stacy as he pulls up the sheet. And again, here's some of this acting that Farel captures so well, the shaking of the camera as it's on record, and Barry's just now noticing this, and he's like, "What the fuck
he's auto-focusing as he zooms in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what the fuck? It's that the pose has been changed. He put her in a very specific, uncovered, untidy position
Right.
that Hunter has now adjusted.
And it so happens that this window is right above the couch where she is. So he's able to reach his hand in, pull up the shirt, pull up the jacket to cover her, and then come in and say, "What's wrong? Can't you see I'm smiling for the camera?" And you can see now he took his suit jacket off. He shed his suit jacket.
Yeah, he's got his shirt tucked into his gloves.
Yeah.
It's a great look. I love it.
Love it too.
And it's funny because Matt drew him this way, but you don't think about it until you see it in kind of a realistic style. And so the other thing that I noticed is like his shoes are very funny. They're almost like very like almost Bigfoot cartoony, but they're realistic.
Right. And I think this is like a Farel. This is like a Farelism here. It's like he has a lot of detail to clothing and shoes, I feel like always.
Yeah. They look great. I would read 100 pages of Farel's Grendel stories.
Oh my God. Hell yes.
I mean, of all these guys that really turn me on. Really great.
And so Grendel just unguards him right here, cuts the camera down, crashes it. We kind of there's like some action off camera here. We turn to the next page and we get into some of the conversation here. He's like, "What the fuck do you want?" He's like, "What do I want? What do I want, Bernie?" Isn't the question here. What exactly is it you want, Bernie?
This is Grendel as anti-hero. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's like the guy, the man who is the criminal devil of New York City. This is his one moment to be good.
Yeah, he's like saving someone.
And he's still going to like do this guy so awfully.
So bad. Oh man. And so they just, I mean, he doesn't really let Bernie get much explanation out or anything. Mm-hmm. We hear Stacy kind of rumbling. He does another blunt end to the face. Mm-hmm. And that's when he goes over and gives Stacy a vial of Grendel juice to kind of put her out for a little bit.
It would seem like it's her second dose.
It does seem like that.
But this is the first time that it's ever been hinted at.
Well, I mean, like you said, I mean, seeing your uncle dead in front of you might be enough to pass you out.
It always said she was catatonic.
Right. And it might be one of those things like in a movie, like they pass out, you know.
I guess so.
They punch someone once and they're out, you know.
But if she's catatonic from the shock, then she could wake up at any moment. You
Absolutely.
Know, how it so Hunter's all about control. So I think that when he's stealing her away, she gets dose number 1 off camera.
Yeah.
That's in the headcanon. Okay.
Here she gets dose number 2 as Bernie tries to escape. Grendel chunks him with the fork. He's like, "You ain't going." That's it, worm. Scream and writhe in fear. Again, the anti-hero crossed with poetic. You know, the poetic anti-hero. And then this is
Bernie's big moment.
Right, go ahead. You had mentioned this before.
This is crazy. This is Bernie takes his stand.
It's crazy.
The internal justifications of Bernie Jean come out. You don't know what it's fucking I know how to read. You don't know what it's fucking like to be so different, to be the only one who understands the way. Oh my God.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I don't understand what it's like to be different and lonely. Fuck.
Right. And only understand my way, the way. Here, let me show you the goddamn way. My way.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Next 3 panels, the camera doesn't move as it goes from
next 6 panels,
really. Day. Oh, that's right. Excuse me. From night to day to maybe weeks passing as the sun rises and the blood dries. And then the neighbors ask what's going on. Then the cops show up and they use a battering ram to smash the door in. Yeah, and it ends with a quote from Christine.
Yeah. And the cop's face, one of them's like holding his nose. That would make me believe that, probably it was if not a couple days, a couple weeks. You know, like the rent was
panel
due.
3 talks about the stink too.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Christ Almighty, something stinks. Mr. Gene, hello in there. I'll read the let's read this last panel here.
Yeah,
Contrary to popular belief, Grendel did not torture Bernie Jean. Autopsy reports would reveal only one wound, the death stroke. This is not him toying with someone. This is him being a Terminator with that death stroke. Hoo boy! This common misconception stems from the grandiose manner in which Grendel chose to leave the remains. Quote from Devil by the Deed by Christine Spar. So how did he leave the remains, you think?
In a state of maximum damage that he could do with one stroke. It could have been split from stem to stern with a decapitation.
I bet
it could
right.
he is probably split way the fuck open.
Yeah. With his thumb in his mouth.
Yeah, with his thumb.
That's insane, man.
What a tale.
Yeah, Farel, incredible job. And
it's such a great experience to get to read these 24 pages that take us all the way back to the beginning in sequence. You know, we're not going to get that. We only get that a few times in the anthology. Yeah. And I think this is one of them. And then the second is like the last 4 or 5 stories.
Right, which are like the end.
Right. Yeah.
And we see Grendel and Argent's first meeting here. And we learn a little bit more about the backstory of Argent. And that leads us perfectly into next week when we'll dive into Silverback. So 3 weeks of Silverback?
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I haven't read it.
You haven't read it at all?
Never. I have made it is 3 issues, I believe.
I believe so too, yeah.
I have maybe the second one somewhere in my 20 boxes of comics.
All right.
But
how are you going to read it? You going to pick them up somewhere?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll figure something out.
Cool. So we're going to cover that, and then we'll get back in. The next story is by Stan Sakai. So cool. Ooh. Yeah.
Are you a big Usagi Yojimbo fan?
I'm a mark from way back. I mean, honestly, I knew Usagi before I knew Stan because I had the action figure from the Turtles, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a really cool thing.
I had the action figure. My Bubby bought it for me.
Oh, Bubby.
I requested it and she bought it for me.
Nice.
And then I was holding it on my dad's lap on the riding lawnmower, and we found the elbow in the clippings.
Oh God. Dang, that sucks.
He was my favorite, yeah.
It would be so cool if there was ever like a Kevin Eastman, Grendel story, though. I have found a con sketch that Kevin Eastman did in the 80s of Christine Spar, which is pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. What a great week. Another amazing week. We haven't said it in the last couple of weeks, but again, we're working on a little Grendel zine, which is going to be cool. It's going to be a giveaway for people who leave us 5-star reviews on our iTunes. Jason Behrens, I haven't forgot about you. I still need to send one, but I've got stories from me and Ben. We're going to probably reprint Kamiko Primer #2, the Grendel story in there. And we'll just do some fun little things. Maybe we'll get Mahfoud's cool sketch and stuff like that.
Keep on Grendelin.
Keep on Grendelin. Vivat. Grendel. Till next week.
Nice.